This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast. MJF says his contract is still up at the end of 2023. But is it though? Wrestling's favorite lawyer, Stephen P. New, confirms that he represented both CM Punk and Ace Steel in the Brawl Out litigation. The Road Dogg made humble not by the Iron Sheik, but by the return of CM Punk. And Santa Claus brings all the presents to all the good... And Santa Claus brings presents to all the good girls and all the good boys. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. What the fuck is up, everybody? Welcome on into another episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. I am your boy, Seth Grimes. And as you watch this video will be dropping the week of Christmas, if not on Christmas Day itself. Christmas Eve, perhaps. Who knows? I am getting an early start on it, the best that I can here, and then relaxing for the rest of the holidays. Update, there will be no show for the weekend of New Year's. I had decided to do a Christmas episode, but I will not be able to produce one for New Year's. So just a programming tip there. Also, I do have a bonus video, a special video that I had posted to YouTube yesterday as I record this, which is 10 ways to fix AEW. It is a long half-hour in-depth kind of analysis of the problems going on with AEW currently and how to go about fixing them. So cheap plug for that. That will be at the end cap of this video too. If you forget, it'll be there to like click and watch next or whatever. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and open all of your presents early as we jump on into our first topic here. But hold up. Before we do, Santa would greatly appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button down below. That would greatly help him out as he's delivering presents to children and such. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and jump on into our first clip, a shorter episode this week. Less clips than usual, but still great clips, like the haircut place, right? Last week, I put out a clip of Ace Steel finally breaking his silence about what really happened, or at least what he was legally able to tell at the Brawl Out situation, where he jumped in to help CM Punk, to come to CM Punk's defense in the big backstage brawl with the Elite. And that's basically all we know, and that's basically all he could tell. But he did add one little gem to say that Stephen P. New, pro wrestling's favorite lawyer, Stephen P. New. You can't mention his name without thinking of the song. Great marketing. Stephen P. New actually represented Ace Steel, according to Ace Steel himself. Check out this brief clip.
You don't fuck with family. You just don't. And we came out just fine. And I have a great lawyer, Stephen P. New.
Oh, really?
He's the man. Let's just put that in the world.
Wow.
And Stephen P. New is he's a gem. He is for the wrestlers. He's for the boys. He's on the right side of the world. So I will give him all the praise in the world while I'm sitting here smiling.
And now that your memory is refreshed, what I did in that episode, because Ace Steel had mentioned, he can't really talk much about it, but Stephen P. New and Jim Cornette had basically said exactly what happened. So go listen to them. And I went out and I searched out a year-old clip of Stephen P. New talking about the Brawl Out situation. Well, if I had only waited just a week, Stephen Pinu jumped on the podcast scene and did the House of Kayfabe podcast, which I think is his podcast, his wrestling podcast, along with some other guy. And he confirmed exactly what Ace Steel said. He confirmed the rumors were true, and that not only did he represent Ace Steel in the Brawl Out litigation, but he also represented CM Punk himself. Check out this clip.
And now, finally, after over a year, we can talk about Stephen Pinu being the lawyer, one of the attorneys for CM Punk and Ace Steel, and your relationship with them started how many days after the Brawl Out?
About 2 months. CM Punk got my phone number, texted me, and was just able from that point forward, and Punk had a legal team already, Ace Steel not so much. And, we talked about different things, and just want to tell you, I'm greatly limited what I can say, just like Ace was on another podcast recently. But I think Ace said it best, though. My job in the months that followed Brawl Out, up through the returns and everything like that, was to just look out for their best interest. And I'll always do that. I really can't say a whole lot else. I really wish for the people that watch this show, I'm not going to breach any privileges to my clients, first and foremost. I take that very seriously. And number two, they're subject, I'm subject to NDAs and confidentiality agreements, things like that. So none of the particulars I can get into. What I would like to say, though, Steve, is that from all of that, those two are two of the most stand-up, greatest guys that I've ever known, particularly around the pro wrestling industry, which can get a little carny at times. Both those guys are straight shooters. Both those guys are honest to a fault. And, both those guys are loyal, fiercely loyal to one another and the people within their camp. And it became readily apparent that we were going to be good friends, that, I could provide an outsider's perspective on what they had to deal with and some legal expertise as someone who's had this connection to the pro wrestling business, both as a fan. I understand the stuff. I know who the personalities are, and from representing some other folks, I had some information that hadn't been previously known, let's say.
So not a lot of information coming out from this, not a lot of new information, but at least we can put to bed the rumor that I can't talk about it because of litigation that Tony Khan always likes to drop, is in fact true. There is indeed non-disclosure agreements across the board, or gag orders across the board, where nobody can talk about the incident. CM Punk can't, Ace Steel can't. Stephen Pinu apparently cannot talk about it. But he is able to admit that he litigated the case and that he did represent both Ace and Punk, and talk about a little bit how he got involved in this. And as a wrestling fan, he did mention this in the interview as well. This is a dream case to pick up as a wrestling fan. Imagine you're just a big old fucking mark as a lawyer, and you get the case of the wrestling century lands in your fucking lap. Of course you're going to jump on that. And look, Stephen Pinu apparently came out on top because Punk got his release, or got fired, or whatever the case may be. It was a non-conditional release. He was gone. He didn't have to pay anything back. He didn't have to, there was no drama. So just a clean break. And Ace Steel's out there, and he says he's doing fine as well. He's an agent for TNA now. Fun little interview with Stephen P. New. I thought this was funny because just last week, like I said, we covered this and I had to dig and find a Stephen P. New clip where he addressed the subject. So it was fun that he was able to talk about it here this week. I believe Cornette mentioned it as well, kind of confirmed. So definitely, I guess if you need representation in the wrestling business, Stephen P. New is your guy. I would not expect to hear much more about the brawl out situation with the non-disclosure agreements in place. I don't think the NDAs, I don't think that anybody's going to be able to give any more detail than has already gotten out. But as I covered on last week's episode, we were able to pretty much put together what happened. The only thing that's really in question is how the Young Bucks entered the room. Did they kick in the door hostily? Why are you talking shit, bro? Or were they like, hey, Mr. Phil, could we speak with you just a minute? And Phil just started punching people. Who knows? That much is, that one is up for your interpretation. Up in how you want to decide how things went. But everything else is pretty much exactly how it went. Larry the Dogg escaped with his life. Barely. Just barely. Poor puppo. That's it. That's all I got for this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you listen to the Stephen P. New interview? Would you call Stephen P. New to represent you in your litigation? I guarantee if I was ever at a wrestling show and like John Moxley bled on me or something, I'm calling Stephen P. New. I'm getting a payday out of that shit. I ain't fucking around. But that's all I got for you on this one. Short one, but a fun one. I'm going to go ahead. Doesn't Stephen P. New kind of look like Alex Jones a little bit? Doesn't he remind you of Alex Jones? Just waiting for him to tell me that the frogs are gay. Oh, you didn't know? The Road Dogg, along with the Casio Kid, Conrad Thompson's bestie, did an impromptu YouTube exclusive drop for the Oh You Didn't Know podcast. And this one was a bit of a banger, a bit newsworthy here as Road Dogg opened up about all the shit that he was talking about CM Punk when he was in AEW and all of that bad drama, that bad energy that Road Dogg put out into the world. What happened when now that CM Punk is in the WWE, Road Dogg inevitably came face to face with the Punker Man himself in catering, of course, while they're getting their sandwiches. Check out this clip.
Dog, if anybody is a listener of this show, they know you have spoke your mind about many people, including one CM Punk. You have now run into the one and only Mr. CM Punk backstage. Yeah. Is that correct statement?
That is a safe assumption. So I won't go into the details, but I will tell you that he and I, the first time I saw him, and he was sitting at a catering table, and he and I met eyes, and he stood up, and we shook hands, and we kind of didn't say anything for a minute, and then he literally, and I feel safe sharing this because I shared it with him face to face the following day, how impactful it was. He literally shrugged his shoulders and went "Oh, come on," and pulled me in and hugged me, and I'll tell you the truth, it made me feel immediately like an a-hole, like I'm a piece of crap. It humbled me in myself, if that makes sense. I don't know how else you could humble yourself, but it humbled me in a way where I thought I have talked negatively about you, and I've thought negatively about you, and then you embrace me, and wow, you know what I mean? And look, it may not mean anything to anybody else. It may not mean a thing to you or to Dom or to anybody listening, but to me, it meant a lot. And truth be told, I almost started crying because it was a bit of an eye opener about. I'll tell you this, it immediately made me feel like no matter what the other person has done, no matter what other people have said or done, or you thought they did, or I thought they did, or whatever, to have that in my head and heart is only hurting me. You know what I mean? It ain't bothering him none. It ain't bothering you any. It's only in my head and heart, and that's negativity. And it all drained out of me when he shrugged oh, come on. And it harkens me back to brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got to hug. and he pulled me in and we hugged, dude. And it I don't know, man. It made me feel good for him to do that. By the way, it made me feel really good, but it made me immediately feel ashamed of my behavior.
I could be that guy that points out the hypocrisy of guys like the Road Dogg and even Booker T as well, to a lesser extent. All the trash that they talked about CM Punk when CM Punk was not in the WWE. Now all of a sudden that they have to look at Punk every day, when Punk's in the locker room walking by them, suddenly they ain't got shit to say. Now I could point that out and I could take that low road, but I'm going to take the high road here, and I'm going to actually give the Road Dogg some props. Because I do believe in granting grace to people and allowing people to change their opinions, especially if it's for the better. And for Road Dogg to not just have this experience in his life, but to come out and openly, be humble about it on his podcast to the world, to bare his soul, if you will. I'm going to actually give him a high five for this one. It's not an easy thing to do. It was something I criticized Road Dogg about on this show about CM Punk. I said, look, for such a self-proclaimed godly man, a self-proclaimed man of God, he's all religious and stuff like that, supposedly changed. He carries a lot of hate and negativity in his heart, and he takes shots at people and has a good hearty laugh at people's expenses all the time. And to me, that doesn't speak to being a man of God. That speaks to being a childish bully in a lot of ways, just a douchebag. And he was being just that when talking about CM Punk, having a good laugh at Punk's expense about everything. Punk's whole run in AEW, there were shots taken by the Road Dogg. Negative shots. And now that CM Punk is in WWE and CM Punk was the bigger man to stand up and open up to give Road Dogg a hug, and it humbled the Road Dogg. He's like, wow, I'm a piece of shit. I had said all this trash, carried all this negativity, and here's this man that I carry all this negativity and this hatred and this bad energy for, and have said all this nasty stuff about, and he's sitting here willing to embrace me and sweep it all under the rug. Man, what a douchebag I am. And I hope he learns from that, and I hope he changes for the better as a person. People can change, but they have to be open to. They have to want to. I don't believe that people are the same forever, but I do believe that they have to work at it. That kind of negativity can almost work like a disease. He has to consciously make the effort every day to consciously not speak that sort of shit into existence. He doesn't need to take those tones on his podcast. Now look, it's a podcast and it's a show and it's good for ratings and it's fun to do, right? It's fun to take your little shots at people on your podcast. I just did it with the Road Dogg. But at the same time, if a guy like Road Dogg can finally, at pushing 60 now, can finally come to terms with the fact that he doesn't need to be an asshole and doesn't need to live in this negative world all the time where he's talking mad shit about everybody constantly, better for him, better on him, and he can kind of lift that weight off his shoulders and he can sleep better at night. I don't know why he carries that around with him. I think it's an ego thing. I think it's definitely like a protection mechanism of sorts, a defense mechanism, to kind of hide his insecurities by putting down others. I think that's where it comes from, because I do think Road Dogg is a good guy. I do think he's got a good heart overall, but I think he's got that grizzled, crusty outer core that, man, it's time to just let that shit go at this point, especially how late he is in his age, in the game, retired. Has nothing to gain from trying to put other people down in the business or be the hard ass or the funny guy or the tough guy or the cool guy anymore. He's the Road Dogg. He's a retired ass wrestler sitting in the back, all fat and gray haired and stuff. Like, he's not in the business anymore. He doesn't need to be cooler or get one over on CM Punk, bro, for the internet fucking fan base. Doesn't need to happen anymore. Just chill out and be cool. And I'm glad that he came to that realization. I'm glad that he was humbled, because this was something I noticed about Road Dogg, and I flat out pointed out on this show the hypocrisy of Road Dogg calling himself a religious man but being negative about all these different people. So hopefully that changes going forward, and hopefully, Road Dogg can be a little bit more listen-toable, because I don't listen to his show very often because it's kind of unbearable. He's a fairly annoying guy. He talks a lot, and he's kind of negative, and just kind of like, he likes to bust everybody's balls, and just, it's not my jam. A little bit of it's funny, but it has its point where it gets to be too much. But just like this here clip has gotten to the point where it's too much, I'm going to wrap it up there. But I do want to know, what are your thoughts? Did you watch the whole segment, the bonus episode that Road Dogg put out? What did you think of it? If you haven't, I did link it in the description below, as always. And that's all I got for you. Peace, love, and pizza. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. With Cody Rhodes jumping ship, followed by Jade Cargill and now CM Punk, all making the move from AEW over to the WWE. Naturally, everybody's asking, who will be the next to jump ship? And the long-held rumor was that MJF, when his contract is up at the end of 2023, the bidding war of 2024, we might see MJF end up in WWE, which would be a death blow to AEW at this point. But is it true? We've heard mixed rumors about this. It was first obviously put out there by MJF as part of the storyline. But I believe it was substantiated at the time that MJF's contract was up in 2024. But then we heard a rumor that after he had walked out or left or took his little time off there for a minute, came back and won the title, that he also had come back with a substantially better new contract, which was the issue all along, and that secretly MJF was locked down well past 2024. Well, that was the long-held rumor up until now, where MJF was on the SI Sports Illustrated Media podcast with Jimmy Traina, and amongst talking about fellow Long Islander type things. Between the two of them, they got into the whole business of the MJF contract. And Jimmy Traina asked MJF flat out, are you going to be going to WWE in 2024? Is your contract up in 2024? MJF, kayfabe, not kayfabe, you be the judge. Here was his response.
Now, there's all this stuff about your contract. Now, this is what you can't trust what you read. This is what I've read. I read that you had signed a 5-year deal. It's up in 2024. Then there was something that said you secretly re-signed with AEW. There was stuff where you went on TV and blasted AEW. So can you tell us on December 18th, 2023, what the status is?
I've never lied. January 1st, 2024. when stuff like that gets leaked out, it makes me laugh because I remember something got leaked out about Cody having secretly resigned, and then he showed up. Something got leaked out about, CM Punk and Tony Khan are, actually fine. Everything, like I think fans leak out things that they want to be true. I love AEW. I want to stay in AEW. After this pay-per-view, it's time to assess the situation from a professional setting. So
you have not resigned?
Not yet.
Okay. Obviously, when your contract's up, you have a lot to consider on all sides of the fence.
Yes.
And I think with, obviously money's an issue. There's travel dates. There's this, that, where you are. I just want to focus in on one thing about this for you specifically, which I find interesting. Will it cross your mind and your head at all to think, can I be full MJF, Maxwell, Jacob Freeman over there where they're so PG? And will I be happy if I had to do that? Is that a factor in your decision?
I just don't know how the fuck you put a leash on me. And I swear to God, that's my honest opinion. I'm sorry I've now cursed twice.
You can, it's fine. It's fine. This isn't WWE. You could say fuck.
I don't, thank fucking God. I don't know. I don't think anybody can hold me back from being the monster that I am. I think my career trajectory in any company is going to be exactly the same.
Does anybody really know at this point? Could anybody really know at this point? What is true? What's not true? Here's what I think. I think MJF wouldn't be the world's champion right now if he wasn't already locked down for a longer period of time than January. I don't think Tony Khan would be waiting this long to lock MJF down. I think he would have made him several big offers by this point if MJF was turning down any original offer. Tony should be trying to lock him down as best as he can. MJF has said, I do want to be a free agent and hear WWE out. He wants that bidding war. And though I do think that MJF is bound for WWE at some point in his career, I don't know that this will be the time. I don't think MJF would be where he is on the card right now if he was not still signed to AEW, or his, future was in question going into 2024. Now, I could be completely wrong. Tony Khan has not always been the best businessman in the world when it comes to stuff like this. Jade Cargill, prime example. And even Cody Rhodes was a TNT champion without a contract. So it's not like Tony wouldn't or hasn't in the past left the title on somebody that may or may not be around next month. I think we'll know if Samoa Joe beats MJF. If MJF wins that match, then MJF's probably still signed to AEW. And I can't imagine that Samoa Joe is going to go forward as the new AEW champion. He's a top guy, but maybe not the top guy. So I can't see him being the guy to dethrone MJF. So I just don't see it at this point. I think it was accurately reported that somewhere along the way MJF had re-signed. I think this came out when WWE insiders had noted that there was no conversations between them and MJF, and as far as they were, he is not going to be available anytime soon, so he's not anybody that they're considering. Now, of course, we have all heard these stories before, as recently with Punk. Sean Ross Sapp was told by WWE officials that zero conversation had taken place with Punk, and whether it had or had not at that point doesn't mean that, as Triple H said, it was a very last-minute thing. Doesn't mean that it could not still come through at the 12th hour, the 11th hour, whatever the fuck the saying is. So, MJF, if his contract is up, best believe WWE is going to make a play for him. I just don't know. I don't think that this is that time yet. I think MJF will stick around in AEW for a little bit longer. And as far as, being able to fully be MJF in WWE, I think he'll have to do a toned down version of it, which is fine. He will be able to adjust. He is a professional like that. And if the money's there, and the potential to, have that kind of bright WrestleMania Hall of Fame future is ahead of him, I think he'll be more than happy to sacrifice a little bit of his edge. But we shall see. He could also be that guy that is a diehard flag bearer for AEW. As long as Tony Khan is paying him what he's looking to get paid, he'll stick with Tony and be loyal. Who knows? It could come down to, is it just a money thing of which Tony is able to compete? Or is it a matter of, AEW is not looking so hot right now. WWE is doing great. Now, that could change at any point in time. But for now, WWE does sound like the shinier place to be, does it not? But time will tell. But it is my guess that MJF is staying put. Would love to know your thoughts. Let me know down in the comments below. Did you listen to this interview with MJF? He did also talk a little bit about CM Punk. Said he's happy for the guy, basically. And, it's business. And if he works out for him there, good for him. He talks about, being inducted into the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and that whole, all the stuff going on with his people currently. So there's a lot of other good tidbits in this interview. I do recommend checking it out. I have linked it in the description for you below. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Please hit that subscribe button down below if you liked it. Peace, love, and pizza. I'm going to go on to the next.
I hate juggalos. I fucking hate them. I say all this with a grain of salt because for a good part of my own life, I proudly identified as a juggalo. You should come to the gathering with me. Nah, man, I'm not into all that whoop-whoop shit anymore. I'll pay for your ticket. I got fired today. Get the fuck out! Still got room for me? Spike, slow the fuck down! Cops!
Fuck your sleep! Fuck your sleep! Fuck your sleep!
The Savages started closing in with their tiki torches and war paint. Shit! Run! You guys got a dead body here already? Even the aliens were throwing shade. It was pure panic and intense horror. There was a guy I saw got chopped in half. I had nothing left to go back to. You alive? Yep. The Gathering. A bold journey into the belly of the Juggalo underworld.
Believe it or not, one of my biggest inspirations for this YouTube channel that I do is Mr. Beast, the biggest YouTuber on the planet. If you have not heard of Mr. Beast, you should have. He is indeed the biggest YouTuber on the planet. Millions of views, millions and millions and millions of views on every video, bar none, and they're all bangers. And I like to watch from time to time. My kids expose me to Mr. Beast, and I'm like, hey, man, he's pretty cool. So from time to time, I watch a few videos, and I was just sitting down, just curled up on the couch to watch a cute little doggo video. Mr. Beast adopts 100 dogs that were slated to die, to be killed off, to put to sleep. And he adopted them all, and he gave each and every single one of them new homes. And that was the point of the whole video. So why am I talking about this on a wrestling channel? Well, because just randomly, out of nowhere, he's not announced to be in the video, he's not on the thumbnail, he's not in the title, just completely out of nowhere, about halfway through this video, Dave Batista shows up on the Mr. Beast YouTube channel to help give away some doggos. Just randomly. Check out this clip.
This time, Dave's doing the adoption. Let's see how good of an actor he is.
Dave, when they walk in, bark and woof to them as a dog.
It's an everyday thing for me. Oh, it's kids.
Hello, how are you?
All right, you can stop. You can stop. I don't want to make it too hard on him.
Sorry for barking. I've been speaking to dogs all day.
And we have a prize for you.
We have a huge prize for you guys. Free pet food for life from Jinx. And we also have pet insurance for life for your pup, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
But wait, there's actually one more surprise.
There's actually one more surprise.
And then go to the beach painting, turn it around, and show them what it says on the back.
Get the picture?
No way! Thanks, guys.
With Dave now a part of the team, we were adopting dogs faster than ever before.
Man, he has drastically slimmed down, has he not? Even as the last Guardians of the Galaxy movies that I watched, the Christmas one from last year and Guardians 3, Batista looked even a little bit chubby. You know, like maybe he was, you know, just kind of putting on a little weight. He even started wearing the shirt as Drax the Destroyer, and we all know Drax's gimmick is he doesn't wear the shirt because it hurts his nipples and stuff. It's uncomfortable. But he started wearing a shirt because you can see he's starting to get the chin and everything, the double chin. It's like Batista's losing weight or gaining weight, and he even said, you know, look, man, this is hard for me to maintain the body needed to be Drax the Destroyer. But here he's fucking slimmed right down to nothing. He's scrawny as shit. I'm sure he's lean and ripped as fuck, but he's, as far as size, you know, the animal Batista, it's not him anymore. It's a different guy. It's fun to see where Batista's come, you know, to see him like just randomly, for him to be such a pop culture icon that he's just randomly in a Mr. Beast video of all things. Huge movie star, acclaimed movie star, by the way. He has not made as much money or reached the top star power or been in as many big blockbuster movies as, say, The Rock, but he's certainly a better actor than The Rock. I would argue that Batista is the greatest wrestler turned actor of all time. Better actor than Roddy Piper, better actor than Hulk Hogan, duh. Better actor than The Rock, better actor than John Cena. A bigger star? No. Richer? No. But, man, the range of Batista, the types of roles that he can play, from the comedy of like a Drax the Destroyer to the more, you know, that one where he plays like the creepy cultist in the woods cabin guy. And like he's got such a wide range. Batista's a mega star, and I'm so proud of this guy. And he's so humble, so kind. And even in this video, as you saw, you know, he had a warm spot for that doggo. And in the end, you know, he was called to give the consent to let that doggo get adopted. And he's just a sweet man, just a big, strong beast of a man, but a kind, gentle soul. And one of the biggest stars to ever come out of professional wrestling. And I never would have called it during Batista's heyday. I never saw him as a top level star. He was always like he could always be a main eventer at any time, but he wasn't like The Rock or John Cena to me. You know, he was always just a step below that. And but man, his Hollywood career has taken off, and it was fun to see him pop up in a Mr. Beast video. And hopefully we see more of Dave in wrestling as well. He doesn't really drop in to do cameos or anything. He really, really should. Anytime that they're in LA or wherever the fuck he's at, they should have Batista just cameo, even if it's just a backstage thing, saying hi to Hunter or just coming out to say hi to the crowd. You know, like an old Undertaker spot where like a young guy like a Grayson Waller comes out to like talk shit, and then he ends up getting fucking clotheslined or fucking, you know, get the spine buster or some shit like that. Why not? I don't know why Batista's not around wrestling anymore, but it was great to see him, and I wanted to share it with you guys. It has nothing to do with wrestling other than it's our man Batista. But he's in a Mr. Beast video, and for me, that's newsworthy. So hopefully you found it newsworthy as well. But if not, doesn't fucking matter. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next. There was a rather interesting conversation to be had on Grilling JR this week with Conrad and Jim Ross, where they were talking about the Macho Man Randy Savage. And we've all heard the rumors of why Macho Man was kind of blackballed from the WWE. A lot of people just piss on those rumors altogether, and some people do say that there is a little bit of smoke to that fire. A little bit of fire to that smoke, if you will, baby. But in this conversation here, kind of perked my ears up. Could there just be a more simpler explanation for why Randy Savage was never brought back to the WWE before he died? Very, very simple explanation, and it's just I didn't want to. Check out this clip.
And there's been lots of rumor and innuendo as to why Randy was never brought back into the fold. It feels like Vince was able to forget and forgive, and or whatever it is with Scott Hall, with Kevin Nash, with the Ultimate Warrior.
That's being a good promoter. You sign guys that you believe are going to make you money, whether you like them or not, whether you're going to have Christmas dinner with them or you're going to exchange gifts or whatever. I'm being facetious. But if they help your company's bottom line, you can forgive and forget a lot of things that happened prior to that. Because still the bottom line for the stockholders and for your partners and for your company is to make a profit and significantly increase that bottom line as regularly as possible. And we all knew that Randy was going to be, he's a star, a great name identity. So, I didn't get along with him, but that don't mean nothing. Don't mean a thing other than we had different philosophies, and he was a little bit of a bully and unpredictable. And maybe that's what made him a star. If it did, more power to him.
Well, Jim, I got to ask, I think a lot of people just automatically, because listen, there's silly, stupid rumors and gossip out there that's not true about why Randy wouldn't have been brought back. And it was a personal issue with Vince and blah, blah, blah. But to hear what you just said, I'm reminded of the fact that, hey, you're running talent relations. And if you weren't necessarily high on him, maybe we don't need to look any further. Or do you think ultimately your feeling and position was, hey, he's not going to wrestle, so what are we going to do with him? Why would we entertain a conversation with Randy?
Well, and he's going to get paid a lot of money. If you're going to get him, he's going to have a nice sticker.
Yeah.
I don't know what the MSRP is going to be on that deal, but it's going to be a lot of money. And he's not going to wrestle. Or we didn't think he was going to wrestle. So I don't know, Connie. I just never clicked with him, but I refused to allow that to interfere with my daily duties in administration, because you don't have to be an idiot. You'd be an idiot not to see the star power. He's Randy Savage, for God's sake.
Of course, yeah.
So I wasn't going to go against my team, and because I didn't personally get along with him. He was Vince's guy. He was always very close to Vince. And that was good enough for me. I handed him off. I don't need to be involved.
I tend to believe Jim Ross here. I don't think Jim Ross, as grumpy and curmudgeon-y as he is, I don't think he's one to just hold a grudge to the point where it's going to affect business, right? If the Macho Man Randy Savage coming into the WWE was good for business at any point in time when JR was the head of talent relations, that call would have been made. Now, there's also a fine window here. We can look at it a couple ways. One, was Macho Man's contract ever up for negotiation while he was in WCW? If so, that would have been under the overseeing of Jim Ross. If there would have been any kind of incident, and Hulk Hogan did this, but I don't recall hearing if Mach did or did not, where Mach's contract would have came up during his WCW run, where he would have had a negotiation to see if there was any interest on the WWE side. And at that point, he would have ran into Jim Ross to negotiate with, where Jim Ross probably wouldn't have had any interest in him. Now, if it came directly from Vince to hire him, then JR obviously would have. And, like I said, I tend to think that JR would have hired him anyway if it was a good business move. But maybe it wasn't. For one, we don't know if Mach's contract ever even became available during his WCW run. He might have been signed the whole time or just re-signed right away without even negotiating with the WWE. I don't know that that's the case. I'm sure Meltzer has it in the Observer somewhere along the way. But in that case, what would be the benefits of bringing in Mach? Star power, sure, but he's old when you're trying to push this newer, younger Attitude Era generation. And he would have been very limited in the ring at that point. And, he was kind of an egomaniac as well. The other time where Mach would have been available would have been when WCW went out of business. And Jim Ross could have had a look at him then as well, but I think Mach would have fell under that category of Hogan and Nash and everybody else that was sitting home on a Ted Turner contract, a Turner Network contract, and not a WCW contract, where they were sitting home getting fat paid to do absolutely nothing. And they were not going to get that fat paid to go to the WWE, nor, does it sound like there would have been any interest in Mach at that time. But that would have been the second opportunity, if Mach was interested, that he would have dealt with JR. After that, it would have gone through Johnny Ace, and JR would not have been involved with the negotiation anymore. Johnny Ace took over shortly after the fall of WCW. I think JR was still helming the hiring books at that time when a lot of those WCW guys were coming in, but I want to say by WrestleMania, that would have been WrestleMania 17 and 18. I would say by Mania 19 or 20, it was definitely Johnny Ace in talent relations at that time. And Macho did a stint in TNA in the early years, but never really came back to wrestling after that, which always kind of fed into those rumors that there was some significant heat, brother, between Macho and the WWE. And it has to go beyond Macho went to WCW, because everybody went to WCW. Jeff Jarrett fucking stood them up for money. Ultimate Warrior stood them up for money. This is not a thing. Mach would, like Mach saying, look, I would rather wrestle than sit at the commentary table, please. I'm just going to go to WCW. Vince is not going to hold a grudge to just never, ever mention Macho Man again or bring him back again or anything like that. So there was something more to it, and that feeds into the whole Stephanie rumors, though she would have been a little underage at the time, I do believe, or just freshly 18. And who knows, she could have been a starry-eyed little girl who grew up watching Mach and always had a crush on him or something and wanted to get her some of that. I don't know. It's a lot of people deny it, but the rumor exists because it's such a weird circumstance around the Macho Man being such a huge WWE star for such a long time and then just nothing. Never coming back, never being mentioned, no highlight packages, no Legends deals, no Hall of Fame while he was alive, nothing at all. So it leaves that out there for speculation, but it could just be as simple as Jim Ross was in charge of talent relations and he didn't wanna, but who knows? Wrestlers is one of the biggest surprise hits on Netflix this year, getting huge ratings, and I do believe it will actually be renewed for a second season. This is the show that follows OVW, the Ohio Valley Wrestling, the infamous OVW that was the prior to NXT and FCW, was the breeding ground, if you will, for the next WWE superstar. That's where John Cena came from. That's where Batista came from. Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, Shelton Benjamin. They all came up through OVW. In fact, Jim Cornette was a part of it at that time. And now Al Snow is the head chief man in charge over at OVW. And they're still running strong, both as a school and as an independent promotion. But he is not doing it alone. He has a businessman helping him out by the name of Matt Jones. And Matt Jones was on the Busted Open podcast this week talking about the success of wrestlers. We're going to play you that clip, and then I'm going to give you my personal review of wrestlers on the back end. But first, check out Matt Jones of the show Wrestlers talking about what it means to OVW.
Well, first of all, I mean, you guys know this significantly better than I do. I did not realize when I came in, wrestling's not like any other business in many ways, but especially in the ways they look at outsiders. So like I've been in parts of a lot of businesses, and when we would come in, a lot of times they were happy to see us. I don't know if that's always true in wrestling. I mean, I think if you're not one of the wrestling people, there's a suspicion about you. And I completely understand that. I think I didn't handle things perfectly at first. I treated it like it was a regular business. I sort of treated it like going, okay, everybody, let's do this, this, and this. And you just can't do that in wrestling. And I had to learn that lesson. And that was my fault. I've learned a lot in my other ventures based on this. I think it got better over time. Honestly, the Netflix special was how it happened, because my vision was we got to have some splash. We got to have something big happen. So I came up with this idea for this Netflix show, so got Netflix on board, etc. I kept telling the wrestlers, they're doing this documentary on us. The cameras came, they followed us. And you guys know this, you've been in the business. They still didn't believe me it was going to happen. They honestly thought that, like, they were so cynical about it that they didn't believe me. And it really wasn't until the trailer came out a month before the show came out that they were like, wow, this is real. This is really going to happen. And then all of a sudden, I think they saw my greater vision and it became a lot better. And the relationship is good now. My other vision was we got to get people to remember we exist. And if we can get a documentary, it'll be perfect. Now, did I expect Netflix to do it? Did I expect one of the best sports directors in the world to do it? No, but then it happened and everything fell into place and it worked.
You said 3 years. It wasn't an overnight success.
No.
Like
it wasn't. And if the Netflix show doesn't come out, it might still not be a success. I mean, we were improving, but we needed a break. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, take your old show. This is a great platform. You guys wouldn't have had us on a year ago. You wouldn't have. I mean, you've had a lot of folks from our organization on, Jesse and Al, et cetera. Al may have been on, but the rest of us, you wouldn't have had me. We needed something to kind of put us on the wrestling map. We were on the map in Kentucky, but I wanted to be on the map around the world, and this was the way to make it happen.
Congrats to Matt. Congrats to Al Snow. Congrats to everybody involved with the Wrestler Show. A huge hit on Netflix, a huge hit for OVW, for the wrestling business in general. Now, as far as the Netflix show, like I said, I do believe they will get renewed, which is fantastic. It follows the dying, if you will, independent promotion of OVW as ran by Al Snow. And he's kind of taken on some outside financial investors. This Matt Jones fella that we just listened to, for example, local radio guy, car dealership guy, I think, local businessman, a couple other investors. And they're coming in and they're trying to turn the business around. And there's a little bit of a butting heads between, the wrestling way of doing things and the business way of doing things to actually make money. And then it follows a lot of the talent, too. And a lot of these talent are very interesting and some not so much, some quite depressing. It follows, for example, Hollywood Haley J, the big star of the show. This little white trash. It reminds me of, if anybody's ever watched the show Ozark, she's like Ruthie, but the wrestler. She's a little white trash, firecracker, blonde, talks kind of ghetto. And she's just, like a big mouth, like coming out swinging, trailer park bitch, right? Hot though, like a dirty trailer park, little dirty trailer park blondie. But she's got the personality and attitude to be a star. I don't know if she's got the talent. You can't really see as much. Can't say I've gone online to watch any full matches or anything. But she's there. Her mom's there. They kind of tell that story of their relationship, as her mom was an independent worker as well. And the cycle just continues, and it follows guys like the Shira guy who was in the WWE system for a little bit. Now he's out, and he came to this country to be a success in wrestling, and he doubts himself, and he's not sure if he will, and he gets injured, and he's like OVW's top guy at the time. There's this old guy, Cash Flow. He's kind of like the washed up guy who's, he started out on the scene, but he never quite made it. But he still just refuses to hang up the tights, and he's still a big part of OVW, but he's not really anything in the greater scheme of pro wrestling. And it's a lot of those kind of stories. Hollywood Haley J's boyfriend, Dark Storm, I think his name is, or whatever, had a little bit of, I think he was in TNA for a cup of coffee or something like that. And now he's still trying to make it. And it's the story of all these guys. And then it concludes with Al's big return. He comes back for one last match to pop the territory. It's a little bit depressing. It's dark. It's got that beyond the mat darkness feel. Just the hopelessness, the dreariness. These guys that were, their dreams, they never made it as they dreamed. Their dreams never came true. Or these people that are out there trying to make it but aren't necessarily succeeding yet. There's, drug junkies, juggies. There's a character with a drug problem that ends up getting booted out of OVW. It's very real life. It's a very good depiction of what it's like to be on the indie scene, to run an indie show from all aspects. The business side, the booking side through Al, the business side through this Matt Jones, the talent side through the roster and all their bitching and complaining about their spots and what they're going to be doing and this and that and the other thing. I don't know if any of these people, Layla Gray, she was on the show and she actually did get signed to AEW, and that was one of the last episodes. She announced she got signed to AEW. So if you recognize her, she was on the show from AEW. I think Hollywood Haley J. If anybody's going to make it out of here, it's going to be her based on personality alone. I don't know, even size-wise, I don't know if she'll make it as a wrestler, but she could absolutely be a manager or something. She got a big mouth. She can talk, and she gets the wrestling business. She gets the showmanship of it, and she's tough. She can take a bump, take a hit. So, cool stuff there. And just, to catch up with Al and see Al's struggle. Al trying to run this company and struggle with his legacy. This company is his legacy, essentially. So it's about 7 episodes, the whole series. Each episode's an hour long. Takes you very much inside, behind the scenes of all of that. Like I said, the wrestlers, the booking, the business side. It's a great show that Netflix really did put together, but it's very... it's got that beyond the mat feel. It's going to kind of leave you feeling a little icky after. And so maybe it's not necessarily a binge-worthy show, at least not for me. To each his own, you might like it. But I feel like it plays a little bit more on the darkness of the wrestling business than the happier upside of it. And it's not necessarily a good look for wrestling in all cases, but it is a good, it does tell good stories. And that's what wrestling is there for. And it shows a fun, different side of the wrestling business that you don't get to see on the mainstream level through AEW or WWE. This is a continuation of everything that Beyond the Mat was as a documentary, showing that lower side. And some of these guys get called up for like dark matches at AEW or whatever. And it's just that ongoing story of being a wrestler. It's a good show. I recommend watching it. If you're on the fence or if you haven't watched it all the way through, you probably should. You're going to come out. Definitely the star of the show is Hollywood Haley J. Al Snow. This Matt Jones guy, I wasn't a huge fan of him at first. He was definitely positioned as the outsider business guy coming in to kind of throw his 2 cents where it doesn't belong. But I think, they tell his story too, where he kind of earns your respect by the end, and you actually like Matt too, and you see where he's coming from, and it's a good story. It's a very good story, but it's dark, it's real, and I don't want to say dark like nothing really bad happens. It's just there's a very unglamorous side of wrestling that's portrayed, and the score to it, it's got the darker tones and all of that. So you'll see what I mean if you watch it. But all in all, it's a very well-produced documentary on the rise of OVW. And I think if they get renewed, I think it'll be cool because this changed them. So now this is going to be a big step up for them, more exposure. Going into the next season, it's going to be hot if they get another season. So I am excited to see that. But I would love to know what your thoughts were. Let me know down in the comments below. Did you watch the show? Did you like the show? What did you think of Wrestlers on Netflix? And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Go check that shit out. It is a good watch. It gets my thumbs up. Plus, you kind of want to smash LAJ. Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother. That's it, y'all. That's all I got for you this week. Like I said, a little bit of a shorter episode than usual, but it is Christmas after all, and I do have family and such, so I'm gonna go do that. Plus, you guys do too. You don't want to just sit around and listen to me for hours upon hours over the holidays. So here you go, a nice little short episode. Again, will not be an episode next week for the New Year's, but I'll be back after that in 2024. So I will catch you in 2024. See you next year, pal. Lots of fun things happening in 2024. My big announcement still to come for the future of this show. And also lots of other little fun projects along the way. Again, a short plug for my bonus video that I put up where I fix AEW. It's a fantasy. A little fantasy role play where I've been hired to be the interim CEO and creative of AEW, and I am in charge of fixing all of their problems. And I list my 10 ways that I would fix AEW. That'll be in my end card. So you can, if you watch to the end of the video, you can just click on that. Otherwise, it will be in the playlist as well for the Pro Wrestling Podcast. With all of that said, I'm going to go ahead and get the fuck out of here. Peace, love, and pizza. I am your boy, Seth Grimes, as always. And this has been the Pro Wrestling Podcast.